Hey everybody, welcome. I'm Sara Wiseman. Welcome to Spiritual Psychic. I'm returning from a break from recording, and so kind of getting back in the swing of things. Um, Today I wanted to talk to you about how we mature and grow as we how we mature and grow as we age, and the different sort of passages that we come across as we age. And there's a lot written about this, and there's a lot of psychology and science people who've got some theories on this, and even if you look at archetypal work, there's a lot of archetypes that represent the different levels of consciousness or the different levels of age. And I would suggest that consciousness can come at any age. So that's sort of this thing that you could have consciousness very young, and yet you would still need to go through the various personal evolution of the age that you are. So if you became super conscious at age 17, perhaps from some event or something that happened, that does not mean you're going to skip ahead and never have to deal with all of the things that will happen in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and onward. Even the people that seem extremely conscious, like they're on the world stage, seeming kind of young, maybe people in their 30s or 40s that are doing sort of spiritual leadership roles, I would suggest that, again, the consciousness is there, but the learning curve, like nobody gets to escape the stages of growth. And I think part of this just happens in our body. When we're in our 20s, we have wild amounts of energy. When we're in our 30s, we still do. When we're in our 40s, we get this sense of like, whoa, this is my life. I better get something going on. When we're in our 50s, we get this sense of, what was that all about? Again, this closer to the end point, regardless of how long we know we're going to live. And so in our 50s, we start this sort of assessing. We start the beginning of life review process. And so I would say that there's spiritual awakening stage, a very definite spiritual awakening for most people in the early to mid 40s, usually women, slightly few years earlier than men. And then in the 50s and 60s is this sort of grappling with, how do I want to spend my time? What am I doing? Why do my knees hurt? Like this sort of desire to have really amazing experiences and relationships, and yet we might also be incredibly busy with working, incredibly busy doing that whole sandwich of taking care of elders and taking care of youngers. And this sort of dawning of mortality, like, oh, yeah, it's closer than it used to be. What am I going to do about that? I think in the 70s, we sort of have a little bit of a panic. We sort of have this, like, I want to do everything, but maybe I won't want to do it all, but maybe I won't get all that done. And sort of this beginning to look back on everything that's happened, and almost like the sense that you don't get to have a do-over in a lifetime, right? In this lifetime, everything we've experienced up till this age now, we don't get to go back and do it again. So whether you chose, quote, wisely or not wisely, and most of us have done lots of both, you just kind of have to come to terms with it. Like, that's what I did. That was my life. I made good choices and bad choices, and here I am, knowing what I know. there is this tendency to put this sort of spin on it, like, oh, all the things I went through have brought me to the person that I am now. I think that's true. And even if you want to say that, you may still have these regrets, like, why did I marry this person versus marry that person, or not get married, or why did I move here and not there, or why did I do this job or not that job, or these many choices where there were options, and then you took the best option you could at the time. Of course, we did the best we could at the time, regardless of even if we did terrible, bad decisions, in quotes. But then getting to this place of, okay, here's what I did. And yes, everything you did made you the person you are. And yes, you may have some feelings about that, like, gosh, I wish I had been further along in my understanding so I could have chosen differently. And there's a sense of some regret, or gosh, I really messed up that relationship. And then there's this sense of, dismay, or wanting to do repair, but it may not be possible, or gosh, I didn't treat myself very well during those years, or and so this great compassion comes up from this idea that this is our life and we are doing the best we can in the moment. And sometimes that's amazing, and sometimes we're just kind of hobbling along, and that is the best we can do. So I kind of want you to, during this time of such world chaos, really give yourself a break for whatever you've been through, or whatever perceived mistakes you've made, whatever relationships you weren't the best in, or whatever situations you kind of made mistakes in, and just allowed all of those things to be what they were, and free yourself from the continued rehashing of, oh, why did I do this, or oh, what was that all about, or golly, I wish I'd understood more. It's kind of like asking, you wouldn't ask a kindergartner to make great decisions the same way that you'd ask a high school senior. And you wouldn't ask a high school senior to have understanding that an 80-year-old has. You just wouldn't expect it. You have to go through the evolutionary stages to come to some level of wisdom. And some of you woke up really early and you still had to go through those stages. Another of you have been awake for a while and you're still going through those stages. And some of you are just waking up right now. And in fact, it's not a bad place to be, because you have all this depth of experience behind you of having been through so many life events, good stuff, the bad stuff, the really hard stuff. You've been through all of it. And so you can apply that level of compassion and wisdom and sort of take this big picture approach to your life. Metaphysically, a lot of you guys have studied Michael Newton, and in his work, Destiny of Souls, and I think Life Between Lives, some other people wrote about that. This idea of, after we transition, we go into a space where we review our lives of this lifetime on this planet, and then we're kind of shown all the soul lessons that we were here to learn. In my own experience of working so intensely with the guides for so many years, this is what they also say. Not so much, let's see, the way that they have shown me this idea of soul lessons they often show things quite visually, but sometimes when I've gone up there, they will show me these giant sort of chakra medallions, and there's many of them. And so for the root chakra, they'll show this giant medallion with red stones in it, but not all of the stones are in there. And it's like a front and back kind of big thing. And they'll show this as a way of symbolizing, okay, first chakra, stability. Look, this is how far you've completed the various understanding around the things that this chakra involves. Or chakra 2, I call it the creativity and sexuality chakra. They'll show me a medallion of this chakra, like, okay, look, here you are with this one. And in my experience, a lot of my upper chakras are filled pretty near completion, but the lower ones are less so. In someone else's experience, it might be the reverse, or each of us is going to have our own individual makeup of what have you been working on and how far have you gotten. And this is just a visual way that they've shown me. They've also many times shown me the idea of the Akashic records and these places, these other portals and other dimensions that we go to when we're in liminal state of having passed and not being yet in a new lifetime. So this idea of soul lessons, reviewing our lives, working on things, and you'll notice that the guides are not like, we want you to spend all your time watching the news on your phone and responding to that. That's not where our attention, for the most part, is meant to be. Our attention is meant to be in our personal day-to-day experience, who we come across, what we're thinking about, how we're interacting with our environment, the work we're doing, how we're feeling. Are we feeling mostly pretty calm and settled, or are we always in a state of fear or anger or anxiety? And so they're asking us to look at the real life that you're in, the real life. I'm going to read a little bit from the Gabriel messages. You guys know about this book. Let's see what we want to. All right, well, here's one that kind of relates. Moment of meeting. There is a place where your understanding comes across a level of understanding that is not as expanded or is more expanded, and there is a glitch or a stress or an edge or a tension. And you feel the chaos of two dissimilar waves of energy meeting. If you watch a sea of turbulent waves arriving from across the ocean, there will be the place where activated waves reach the calm, flat, still water. And at this moment of meeting, there is momentary chaos as the two energy forms meet and determine which will now become the primary form. Sometimes the active churns, sometimes the passive calms. This is happening over and over in every moment at all times. It's happening right now, and now it is happening again. So this is an invitation to be aware of how you're showing up. And again, like, I don't use these words like forgiveness or goodness or some morality that you need to subscribe to. It's really about how can you be in this state of awareness of oneness, which would lead you to be, if you feel connected to everything and if you feel part of everything, you're obviously going to feel much more calm and have much less agitation. And so when you do come across the agitated state, the turbulent wave, there is going to be that moment of tension. And then there's this moment of deciding, like, is the greater understanding going to be what leads the next wave? Or is it going to just be the greater understanding kind of falls apart from the agitation and sort of takes on the agitated state? And this is kind of the challenge we're being faced with in the world today. Like, all the agitation, and then what is our response? All the agitation, probably not being able to fix a lot of it, except for in our personal worlds. All the agitation, and then what is our response? Here's two more of these. Meeting of differences. You don't always sense an energy glitch because in most cases or situations there is no need to pay attention. However, when you come across situations that are active, such as violent, angry, intense, manipulative, or controlling, and if you are in the position of calm, peaceful, allowing, and passive, you will sense the meeting of differences. You will sense the meeting of differences. Trust your feelings when you feel them. They are alarm systems to let you know what is real. When you get tired or drained being around another person, trust that their energy is a meeting of differences for you, even if they are projecting something quite different. You do not have to do anything, just knowing is enough. And then last, two forces meet. When there are two forces that are opposing, it is because they have a different arrangement of particulate of which everything is. When the particulate is in alignment, then peace and harmony at that level of consciousness will prevail. When the particulate is in discord, if one is more active or faster than another, if one is at a higher level of consciousness, then there will be discord or adjustment as the two energy forces meet. There may be a sudden skirmish at the moment of meeting, yet over time, higher vibration leads. Levity trumps gravity, peace calms passion, calm trumps chaos, light dissipates dark. And as you consider your response to the chaos of the world, again, calm trumps chaos. This is our big challenge right now. This is like more and more chaos, drama, distraction, anxiety, violence, unspeakable horrors. This is the world right now. And so do we want to be in that agitation and vomit and add to the fire? Or are we going to be like, no, this is just one view of reality, and we're going to choose to step back and remember our oneness, remember it, and then act from that place. This is not an easy time. This is not an easy time. But here we are. This is our task, right? Well, this is what I think our task is, to be in the chaos and remember who we really are. You can find me at sarawiseman.com. As I mentioned before, I'll start to mention this a bit more. Now, Spiritual Psychic is available as self-study. I've never done that the whole time I've had Intuition University. So it's a chance for those of you who have time zone issues or working that you can take this training now. And then when the advanced training arrives, you will have fulfilled the studying, so you'll be ready for that. So anyway, that's at the website, sarawiseman.com. Thank you, and I will see you